Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Alex here with the Flunky Entrepreneurs Field Guide, and don't mind me while I handle some controller action. But I just wanted to, actually, maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll probably get a little distracted, so I'll probably just stick to the cue cards. So I had a topic at mind, and I wanted to, make this live video as transparent and as real and as live as possible, right? And I think it was really hard for me to consider the broad scope of this marketing concept or theory, which is, demographics, right? And it can get very complicated because we have, this theory involves the past, present, and the future, right? We can't just simply, analyze what the present market is. I mean, that in itself is part of a niche when it comes down to marketing for demographics, right? So when you have a breakdown, I truly believe in the rule of threes, right? There's the rule of threes, and you have the past, present, and future, right? You have the beginning, the middle, and the end. And me as a story writer, me as a storyteller, and that's essentially what marketers are, right? They're storytellers. You have to sell characters. You have to sell plots. You have to sell, stories. Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Like you have to be able to sell believability, right? And that's what marketing is. Now, when people talk about niching, it's this strange, obscure thing that it's really it's not, it's ever morphing, I guess you can say, right? That's marketing. That's the marketing world. Now we have tests and we have all this and that, but I like to really, sum it up. I like to sum up my ideas to give you a little bit of, of a takeaway right up front. Look up Claude Hopkins. He was very prominent marketer of his time. Way ahead of his time. We even still use. He's from I believe the very very early 1800s, I believe. And he knew how to market. He knew how to market. He knew how to stay within the confines of a particular market. And when I say he knew, I mean he had a lot of knowledge, and he only expressed his marketing strategies based off his own experiences. Now, he would even go so far to say that, he felt bad for those who did go to school for marketing because, like I expressed earlier, it's ever changing, right? It's not something that you could really, set within a particular, category or market or demographic. Like it doesn't settle. In a very good example of this is the millennial demographic, right? Just to be somewhat of a contradiction, I like to at least set it within a confines that it's common knowledge, right? And the millennials, they're, I like to broaden the range, and that range for me is about the age from 20 to about the age of 40, right? And within that, you have a lot of different, you have a lot of differences in the demographics. I mean, you know, you have race, you have religion. Well, I don't like to use the word race, but you have ethnicities, you have, traditions, you have geographical differences, you have, religious differences. I think I said that. You have age, not only within, the age, but, the breakdown within, the age itself, the different age brackets and stuff like that, the commonality. Like we can only reach out, and this is another part of marketing theory, or at least theories that I've been working on, are we can only reach out so far from our own age group, right? So the whole concept and theory of demographics is really to kind of confine any group of people. Now, where it kind of gets a little iffy is when you try to market between the lines, right? Because you can market to, I don't know, like say 13 to 18-year olds, or you can market from 21 to 25-year olds or 26-year olds. You can market from 30 year olds all the way up to like 36-year olds, or maybe just go to 18 to 36, right? That's the standard. But how do you really break it down? Like, a lot of people don't understand that, breaking this down really encompasses a lot. And what somebody like Claude Hopkins actually, you know, really believed in was, the concept of testing, and he said, really, he said that's how you break it down into a science. And that's really the only way that you could, properly market to any particular types of people. And I have a couple of quotes that I actually want to, I actually kind of want to poke out here, and this is one that I kind of cut off a little short. But instead of sales, they seek applause. And what that quote was in reference to, instead of sales, they seek applause. Don't mind my horrible handwriting. Was, that a lot of people who are trying to market, they're trying to market themselves as entertainers, right? They're trying to market themselves as, and there's another quote here that actually says, I would like to actually extend that one, which is in reference to, instead of what was that first one? Instead of sales, they seek applause, right? And here's another quote of his: "People don't buy from clowns." And that's the reality of it. Like people only buy into entertainment momentarily, right? It's not really something that they create, a deep memory of in the form of what they're willing to buy or purchase or spend time on, as far as future reference. Like that might be, like, when I say that, what I mean is the demographic now, how it is you can sell that entertainment, right? But that entertainment is very niche down to a particular group of people. When you're marketing to a particular niche, like a particular type of group of people, we have, we have certain expectations, right? And this can get really confusing, right? So, all in all, what I'm trying to say is that, you can't think that you can market on a broad scale, right? Because that's what entertainment is. In a weird, strange way, it's hard to, market entertainment to strictly any one group because, as we can see nowadays, there's a lot of, entertainment outlets where, you have, some people who are, within the lower spectrum of the demographic, right? Like they can be 21, 22. They don't share the same entertainment values, right? They won't watch the same shows. They won't, but then you might have some that are a little bit more mature, right? And they might enjoy, like, say for instance, I don't know what, I'm not into, like, watching TV shows and stuff like that, but they might be entertained by a lot of shows that maybe the demographics of people who, or should I say the age range of people who are in their 30s or, early 30s, they might they might be entertained by the same thing. But the thing is, it's kind of like, it's very elusive. Like you know, you can't really pin it down. You can't pin entertainment down to any one group of people because people see it differently. This is why entertainment is such a hard place to market, is because you're selling moments, and moments, are constantly being devalued, right? And I guess that's really what I'm trying to get down to, is when you're selling moments, when you're selling entertainment, it's hard for people to expect that. It's hard for people to find the security in that because the moments are ever fleeting. Any moment is ever fleeting, right? And if they don't have an emotion tied to it, because that's what marketing really comes down to. When you really want to, find, your market, you want to find your people, you want to find your niche on, or should I say your following. You want to find your subscribership. You want to find your viewership. You want to find, the people who appreciate your products or services, right? On a more of a consistent basis, because at the end of the day, that's all marketing is to find a consistency within a particular market, right? So when you're trying to find that consistency within a particular market, you can't aim for, for the momentary entertainment values, right? I mean, momentary entertainment values, it's good when you just are aiming to entertain. Like if that's your number one priority, is just to entertain and kind of, you know, help market your brand, right? Then that's, one particular, avenue that you can take. But then that kind of rolls into like the 80-20 rule, right? Like you don't want to spend 80% of your marketing budget or your marketing time or your marketing efforts on entertainment, right? Because at the end of the day, that's not really where the money is made in the hard market. The hard market is like, where you actually have commodities, you actually have things that you can sell, right? Now, entertainment, it's kind of weird because entertainment is like selling time, right? And when you're selling time, what ultimately what you're doing is your how can I say this? It's going to be hard to extrapolate that because that's going to be a very deep topic to get into. So let's waive that off for now, right? But let's just say that entertainment is selling moments, and you know, you really have to figure out whether or not you're willing to invest the time and money in selling those moments. And if you're not going to get the time and money out of selling those moments, then what's the point of even investing the time and money into it to begin with, right? And the best way to kind of reframe this idea of selling entertainment is to test it. And again, this ever-changing market makes it extremely hard to test entertainment, because entertainment is fleeting. It's very trendy. You don't know, how the market's going to go. There were some shows that were like super, like when I say entertainment, I mean it's not just TV shows and stuff like that, because it could be, anything from commercials to perhaps it's a blog, or perhaps it's a particular, a trendy item, right? And the entertainment value, if the entertainment value is worth more, it's not going to survive in the long run, right? And that's really what it means to sell entertainment. Like entertainment being such a momentary value, it's ever fleeting, and you're always going to have to chase that. That's why we have all these phones coming out every single so often. Is there's a new version of the phone that you just bought, not even a year ago, and you have to rebuy it because they're stuck in the rut of selling entertainment, like, and they're selling just that. And that's the problem with a lot of this marketing today. It's not sustainable because we don't have that really clear, concise, method of test, because, it's kind of like, we kind of let the cat out of the bag, and now it's just running rampant, and really it's going to be hard to get it back in. Like, it doesn't want to go back in. Like when people are so, used to this, momentary entertainment, and that kind of brings me into, this other concept of, or this other area of study, which is the Generation X, right? That the short attention spans and the multitasking, and kind of being separated from the person to person interaction. Growing up in the digital age and the information age. That's the next generation, right? And or that's the generation coming up right behind us. That's a generation that's what, about the ages of about 12 to about 20ish, right? And they are the ones who are just very short attention spans. They don't have any tolerance. They don't want to go into stores and interact with people. They rather shop online and do all that stuff. And in comparison, you have something like the Generation Y, which is the millennials, right? That's the big gap between that's the gap that's stemming from like the age 20 to like about 36, 40, right? And that's it's hard to find the line between those things. But how do you sell, right? You can sell entertainment easily to the next generation because they're so their attention span is so much shorter. So yeah, you have to sell it quickly, right? So the entertainment value, it might be worth a little bit more, especially within like the first 5 seconds of interaction. They're saying now it's like 3 seconds, and by the time that generation comes around, the generation after them, the Generation Z or whatever, I'm sorry, I said Generation X. Generation X was not it was Generation Z is actually what I meant to reference. That Generation Z is the short attention span, right? And you're gonna have to market to them within a second, really within a second, because you don't have time. You have that first image, the thumbnail, the way you construct the title of any captions or whatever. It has to sell within that second, and you have about 3 seconds from the beginning to capture with the excitement, right? And to kind of get them involved. But then you have to keep them entertained second by second, and it's like the entertainment value decreases exponentially from there, right? So you really, and that's where it becomes even more difficult. So that's where I really want to get around to this idea of bringing that generation back to earth, right? Bringing them back down to earth and kind of helping them better organize this informational age. And they say they're going to be much better organized, right? In terms of, compared to what my generation is, which is the millennials, like later millennials. I'm 33, and I'm like later on in that generation, and I'm trying to bridge the gap between technology and in real life, right? And in person to person interaction versus digital interactions. And it's really hard, and especially when you're trying to, especially if you have kids, it's especially hard when you're trying to reach them, because it's the interaction that they become detached from, and that's where marketing to them, it becomes more of an ethical and moral issue, because it's hard to do these things, to do this online marketing, and to do, all this stuff that, is strictly trying to get their attention, right? It's not that their attention is getting shorter and shorter. It's just that marketing has become so, aggressive, that they want to squeeze in more marketing, per minute, per second, per hour, that the next generation is going to have it really tough as far as their, what finding interest. You know what I mean? Like, their interest is going to be ever, fleeting. And that's perfect for a consumer market, but it's horrible for an individual. And when I say that, I mean, to be a smart consumer is although we have the information, is to be a smart consumer in these later generations, or the newer generations coming, it's going to be a lot more difficult, because you're going to have the lack of person to person interaction, right? You're going to be sold immediately by anything that you see within, the first, 1 to 5 seconds. And then, you're going to be looking for the next form of entertainment right after you're done, with that little bit, right? So it gets exponentially difficult to sell entertainment, is what I'm trying to say. So that's exactly what Claude Hopkins is getting around to. A lot of his research and a lot of his things, and by the way, he didn't really go to institution. He actually kind of frowned upon institutions. Going to school for marketing stuff, and this is no, gripe against anybody who has gone to school to market. I've gone to school for marketing, so it's like, I see where he's coming from, and I see from both sides of the spectrum, as far as, learning and understanding, and trying to study theories and stuff like that. Because he did it in a different way, didn't necessarily mean that everybody who goes to school is not doing it the right way. But what he meant to say is that, in his markets, in the things that he studied, in the demographics, and in the studies that he's done, and the testing, it all had to do with real life experiences. And those real life experiences were from the world that he's from. And he actually went on to say too, in his book, that he would never bother trying to market, to the upper class, even though he was practically a billionaire for his time. He was a revolutionary marketer, and he said he would refuse. He refused to market to the upper class, because, although he could have, he had no business doing it, because he wouldn't have, the experience. He wouldn't have the life experience to relate to those people. So his marketing strategies would come off as very bland. They would come off as not resonating with his people, as he would call them. And when I say his people, he referenced the lower classes, the majority, the 99 percenters, as you would say. He said marketing to them was difficult, but it was also easy for him, because that's the world that he grew up in. He knew the necessities, he knew the environments, he knew, the economic stresses, he knew the classisms, he knew, the economic, statuses, and the expectations of family, of regular, the majority of households, and because of that, he understood the needs of the people. So he wanted to, and that brings me to another quote here, that I have from Claude Hopkins. I'm sorry, I wrote a couple of these down on index cards, and I got a few of them to go. So, so let's see. So the right name in an advertisement, the right name is an advertisement in itself. Claude Hopkins. The right name is an advertisement in itself, and that references, how people understand words. Words are abstractions, and I've said this in other videos before, right? In marketing words, and I actually have a little quote that I wrote based off of, my ideas on that. Let me just hit you up with that real quick. Let me see, where am I at here? Here we go. So I have a couple of pieces here. You need to sell experiences, right? If you're a marketer, you want to sell experiences, because experiences come from emotions, and emotions, people are attached to them because they have memories attached to emotions, right? So you want to sell experiences and evoke emotions. That is the number one, that is the number, how can I say this? That's the number one goal of any marketer, right? You want to be able to sell those experiences, because those experiences come from memories, and this is the second part. Words are brands, people remember both good and bad, right? So if words are brands and people remember good and bad, right? Then you have to understand that when you market yourself, when you market your product, when you market your service, right? You need to market your product or service based off of the expectations of any group of people, right? And this is why it's really hard to market, but it also becomes more easy because this is one way you can test your market. This is one way you can better understand the people who are around you. And this is why the title of the video is, market between the lines, because you have to understand, you almost have to market into the mirror, right? You have to market to the mirror. Who are you? Where are you from? What walk of life are you coming from? What walk of life are you at? And what walk of life are you going towards? Because all of that is very relative to what you expect and people what people will ultimately expect of you. So with that being said, you have to know that you walk and talk in a particular manner, right? And people buy into that. They buy that. They buy, who you are and what you say, right? And with that being said, that comes off. Any product or service that you're selling or that you're trying to endorse, it's going to come off, as whether or not you yourself would use that product or you wouldn't. And you might try to sell it, in a way that's going to make you money. But again, that's the entertainment aspect of it. That's the fleeting aspect of it that you're not going to be able to grab because it'll be momentary, and you won't attach yourself to any, good brands, good words that come along with those great brands and the great quality brands. Don't necessarily mean they have fancy phrases and catchphrases and all this and that, right? A good, what was this quote again? A good, oh geez, I lost the quote. I'm getting mixed up here. A good, the right name is an advertisement in itself. Claude Hopkins. That was a quote from Claude Hopkins. A right name is a word, right? And when I was branding, a lot of the things that a lot of the projects that I started, and this is not just for me and my companies that I'm developing, but also the people who I've coached, the clients who I've had, who've had companies, they had anywhere from, a software company to, a fitness and health company, or maybe they had a food service, or perhaps they had like a delivery service, or maybe they had a cleaning service. There's so many companies that come from different walks of life, but the question is, can you relate to those companies? Are those things that that were consistent in your life, or constantly, coming up in your life? Are they consistent in your life? That's the very, a very important thing to understand about branding is you have to know that there's certain consistencies with, any particular, profession. And there are some things that come and go. Like entertainment is really hard to capture because it's one of those things like, again, it's a tool. I think entertainment is a tool to get your point across. But, if you're just trying to market entertainment, good luck, because you have a very small window of this opportunity to get your point across, to sell your brand. And if it's not selling, how can I say this? It's so hard to really, get the concept of selling entertainment in, because there's so many different aspects of it. And it's just so fleeting that it's hard to wrap my head around the idea of selling any of that one particular thing. And then you can sit here and you can say, well, Alex, you're actually entertaining, right now. Like you're on, this entertainment platform called YouTube, right? And, wouldn't that be a contradiction to what you're saying? Because this is almost like marketing your brand. And you're right. But as a tool to market my brand, I use entertainment, because entertainment, as of right now, I'm not marketing, videos per se, right? I'm marketing certain programs. I'm marketing certain information, right? And I'm providing a service, right? So that service is coming through the entertainment, right? But entertainment is not the primary. If I was just sitting here making videos, with prank videos and ASMR videos or whatever the most trendy videos are today, that would be fleeting, right? You might get a viewership temporarily, right? But it's not going to be consistent, and you won't remain consistent on the platform because you don't have an actual product or service that you're working on, that you're developing, right? You're just entertaining, right? And that's what I mean by it being fleeting is all of the stuff that I say and do, it all comes from experience and knowledge from whether books or my normal walks of life, where I actually interact with people. I network with people, and I learn different things. I get different ideas based on interactions that I have, and all those ideas, they come through on this platform. And it's like that's the best part of the live videos, is the fact that you can actually reach people genuinely. Like, you see how like unorganized this video is, and like I tried so hard to do these little cards, but I didn't, let's just say I'm not prepared, right? So I will be making like future videos where I actually like edit videos and actually make them and whatever, but that comes later on. Right now I'm actually still in development. I'm still working on my the 100 PSS system, the 80/20 processes and techniques, and also the deconstructing and reconstructing process of business and personal growth and all that stuff. It's all in the making, but until I actually get a little bit more time to organize my videos and stuff like that, and honestly get some professional help at the end of the day, because you see how unorganized I am. But conceptually, you have to learn, right? It's all a learning process. You have to go through the process. You have to do your research. You have to understand what you're talking about, and it's just a matter of making it clear and concise, right? That's really the only difference, and that's like marketing, right? So it's like, it's very relative to the market. And you can say that, given my personality traits and stuff like that, I'm a particular niche in that demographic of millennials. So to market to me would be to, I don't know, see this video and say, hey, well, here's this age person, or here's this this male that's trying to do entrepreneurship, that's doing that's trying to talk about marketing and all this and that. Let's market to him specifically, right? And that's niching down. So let's go on to the topic of niching, right? Because I bent your ears already with a lot of that jibber jabber about about marketing and all that stuff. I do have a couple more quotes if you want me to get through those, and I'm actually, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to do them, right? I wrote them down. We must get down to individuals. We must treat people in advertising as we treat them in person. And that's that person to person. And that right there, that quote pretty much sums up who and why, or who, what, where, and why Claude Hopkins was a marketer to begin with, and why he marketed particular things and not others. And again, he knew his demographic was really broad. He, as far as like, well, I shouldn't say his demographic, but his marketing strategy was broad, because he was marketing to the majority of Americans, who wanted, more specifically, he was marketing to home providers, right? He was marketing to home providers, whether it was mostly stay-at-home moms, because during his age, in that age, in that era, there was a lot of stay-at-home moms, and those were the ones who read the marketing, who picked up the magazines, who did all the purchasing and all that stuff, right? So his demographic was, he niched down, but it was also very, very broad, because it was across the board. It was marketing not only to the mothers, but why the mothers would, purchase certain products for their children, or purchase certain products for their husbands, or how they can get, how he can get the stay-at-home mothers to further market his information to the fathers, right? And it's a complex thing, right? It's a complex thing. And let's just say this is not a quite a technical video. So let's kind of like brush that off to the side. Okay, so let's wipe that thought out. But anyway, my point for bringing that up is, niching is it could be very complex. It could be very difficult. And in order to make it simple, how do you test? How do you really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going to be valuable, right? Where is your time going to be best spent? And well, and your investment, you're actually going to get an ROI on your time, right? And and money, an ROI on your time and money, right? But it's really trying to figure out that niche. They say the niche is the most valuable aspect of marketing, right? You need to niche. The more you niche, the further you niche, the more specific you niche, the more you can charge for your time and money, right? I mean, more for your products or services. more the more you can extrapolate from that, right? And the more you can actually extract from that process and all that. So, with that being said, niching is it can be it. Oop, got a little bit of a flying around here. Anyway, so as part of that, I want to bring up demographics. So let's just break down basically. I already said that the demographics for millennials is 20 to about 40, right? And some people be like, oh no, it's 22 to 36. Whatever you think, take it for what it's worth. Let's just say within 20. Let's say you have about 20 years to break down, right? Depending on what you're selling, your product or service. Now, understand today's day and age, it's a lot easier to sell, like, say, for instance, ease of access, right? Online shopping. You want to sell that to a younger generation because the younger generations really don't, you know, they don't, they don't want they don't want to have to go to the store, right? They want to be able to shop right from their phone. They want to be able to shop from a laptop or whatever. They want to be able to shop online, right? They want to shop the IoT, the Internet of Things, right? They want to that's where they invest their time, right? That's where they invest their their attention. And if you want to gain a lot more traction for providing a service that's easy to use, that's very how can I say, it doesn't take a lot of time investment or time consumption, then yes, you're going to market obviously to the younger uh, spectrum of that generation, or should I say of that demographic, millennials being the demographic, right? And and then when you get a little further up, let's say that demographic goes from about, you're marketing the ease of access, right? You're marketing, you know, easy online purchasing. You're marketing, ease of transportations. You're marketing ease of customer interactions, or should I say CSR interactions? Customer service interactions. You're marketing, making everything a lot easier, because for some reason the younger spectrum of the millennials, they get really stressed out easily, and they will easily just turn their backs on any company that makes it difficult for them, right? So any company that's going to make it easier for these, the younger generations of the millennials, definitely will have a much more success when they're selling the ease of use, right? So that's the generation that really will appreciate that, right? But then you have like the in betweens, and I would have to say that's from like 20 to about 24, and then, or even you can go to 25, but I would say about 25 to about the age 27, 28, right? Or even if you want to stretch it to 30, that right there, that's the spectrum of, that's kind of like the middle ground. That's the ground where you're selling career awareness, you're selling services, you're selling all these things for people to enhance their value, because that's where a lot of that part of the demographic is looking for ways to increase their income. They're looking for ways to increase their profitability, and their job positions and all that stuff. So you have a lot of these things, like these online courses and all that stuff, that they would benefit from a lot more, because they're already in a world, especially just starting out in that corporate world, or just getting settled in, where they're hitting a plateau, and they want to be able to transition and progress in their careers, right? And that's why you have this huge takeoff of all these online courses and stuff like that, because from the ages 25 to 30, they all want a piece of that pie. They all want to be able to they all want to be on LinkedIn. They want to be the most avid LinkedIn user, and have their profiles like immaculate, right? Like they want, the immaculate resumes and all that stuff. And part of the way to do that, you see a lot of these companies are actually linking a lot of these, certificate programs and stuff like that to LinkedIn, where it actually becomes a part of their profile and part of their resume and stuff like that. And it increases their personal value, right? And personal growth. That's another thing too. The personal growth sector of marketing and all that stuff is that's really the demographic that they're going after, right? And then let's go on to, about from 30 to about 35, 36. That's like, those are the people who really are like, that's the make it or break it. They're either going to stay with the companies in the career that they're in, or they're going to jump ship and start their own business. And that's the demographic that I'm particularly working on, is that range of entrepreneurship. Like, they're either going to stay with their company, and maintain, or they're going to jump ship and become an entrepreneur. And that's when you have these other outlets where you can sell, personal coaching, you can sell mentorship, you can sell all kinds of conferences, and like, you can sell out, Jesus, I can't even think of other things. Anyway, like seminars and all that stuff. Like, it's all relative to that personal growth aspect of becoming, the entrepreneur, right? And it's kind of stemming off the idea of, a lot of these people start that process about the age 25. They start the personal growth, and then by the time they go to 30, they're like, you know what? Either my personal growth has got me what I wanted up until this point, or it's time to move on to something else. And that's where you have that space, that area of exploration, where you have these young entrepreneurs who are about 30 years old that are like, you know what, I'm going to do this now. Like, if I'm going to do it, this is the time of my life that I'm going to do it, before I get too secure in that entrepreneurship and that security of of having that paycheck and stuff like that. I've accrued enough money to save, and I could either use this money to like really invest in a home, invest in a car, and do all that stuff, or I could use some of that savings that I have and start a business, right? And luckily, in today's day and age, selling the ease of access to a business, right? Like that early, they call it the fledgling syndrome, right? It's that early stages of getting that entrepreneurial itch. Like, you want to do something with your life that's more meaningful than just sitting in a cubicle, right? So they want to make that growth. They want to take that step. And from the ages 30 to 35, that's really where it all happens. If you look at statistics will show you that, between the ages of like things like 32 to about 35, or 33 to 35, that's really where a lot of individuals have that entrepreneurial bug, and they start businesses. But that's where a lot of businesses fail, because you have to understand, you only have a short amount of time. You really become mature and finding out who you are, and discovering yourself, through making money and expectations and all that stuff. You're only 30 years old. You don't have a lot of experience. You don't have a lot of principles set up for you to take that big step and to say, you know what, I want my own financial freedom, and I want to build my own security, right? You don't have enough life experience to contribute. You don't have enough things that you failed at, because you've been coddled. Let's be honest. Like, you've been coddled in school. You've been coddled in college, high school, college. Then in your job, when you have the work experience. I mean, when you go from your college to your actual real time work experience, you transition into a corporation, whatever it is. You've been coddled that whole time, because you never had to construct it for yourself. Everything was laid out. The blueprint was laid out for you. But in order to become an entrepreneur, you have to understand one thing. You have to start from the ground up. Like, there's no way around it. Like, you have to develop your own strategies. You have to develop your own business plans. Of course, you can use blueprints that are already set up from, other entrepreneurs before you. Like, things, like, there's a lot of different resources online, especially that's where YouTube is a huge resource. But also, you have those online courses. They, again, like I said, that personal development process starts in your early to mid 20s, up until hopefully the rest of your life, where you keep learning. But that's the biggest difference. Like, a lot of people don't want to keep learning. By the time they hit 30 or 32, they're just like, nah, you know what, I'm kind of done. I kind of know what I want to know. right? And let me try to utilize what I know to build some structure and security in my life. I'll get a house, I'll get a car, I'll start saving for, a family and in college and all this and that. And then the next thing you know, you're locked into that and you can't change it, right? And between the ages of 30 and 35, you're already established that security, and you can't just break it. And that's why you have these slow transitions, because you can either become a hardcore entrepreneur and just quit your job and just dive right into it and go straight into learning, or or you can or you can do it slowly, right? And you can take slowly, the lessons that you've learned and stuff like that, and the hobbies that you have, and slowly transition. And that's another aspect of entrepreneurship, is that slow transition into entrepreneurship. And hopefully you get lucky. But I'll tell you what, there's plenty of, testimonials online of how people become successful. And some of the most profound success stories are the ones who just cut the umbilical cord. They cut it off. They cut the rope to the ship and they just went sailing, and then they learned how to sail while they're out in the ocean. Now, I'm not going to say that's the smartest way, but what I'm saying is that builds up a sense of urgency and necessity, and it holds you accountable to your actions, right? So you have to succeed, but another thing, the most valuable part about that, and just cutting ties, is realizing that, when you fail, you can't just fail. You have to fail forward, right? You have to fail towards success. You have to fail in a way that's going to benefit you, because you can't sacrifice anymore. Like you can't stop and then go backwards. When I say go backwards, I mean you can't stop and try to find that security through another avenue, because you've already established that sense of freedom, right? You've already established a sense of freedom, working on your own time and stuff. Now, a lot of these people, what they do, a lot of these entrepreneurs, what they do is actually freelance, right? And that's another trend. They take their time. Like, they might cut their ties so abruptly that they didn't realize. But here's the great thing about freelancing too, is you can freelance your skills to better develop your entrepreneurial expertise, right? And it helps you in business. It helps you all around. But that's still part of the learning process, right? And then there's a slower growth, like, the hobbies, right? Like you have a certain hobby, and maybe you know, you want to delve a little bit further into the experience and kind of share it with somebody else. So you might become, I don't know, like a writing coach. Like, maybe like me, it's like, for instance, like I've done writing. I've went to school for writing, and I've been working on novels, and I've been working on, all kinds of other, stuff in the realm of writing. And I could easily take that hobby and I could tutor somebody else, right? And make a little bit money and learn what it's like to build a business, or build an interest, and reach out to people and sell that service, right? And that's just nothing more than another avenue for me to venture into as an entrepreneur. But now, remember this, like I was getting to the point where, when you cut the ties abruptly, you make sacrifices that you can't go backwards. You can't go backwards on. And once you make those decisions, you have to understand that around you, other people expect you to continue with that. And with that being said, in order to build up a little bit momentum, you need to understand that you need to keep at it. And that's, long story short, you just got to keep at it. Like, there's no if, ands, or but about it. Like, you can't just stop and switch lanes, or you can't just stop and jump ship and try to swim back to shore, because it's going to psychologically affect you, and it will harm you, in your subconscious. Like, I heard this one thing when I was 16 years old, that this lady told me, and I was working at a donut shop, and she was working there. She was like in her early 40s, and she expressed to me something that was just like, it was very profound for me at the time, because I was, at that point in time, I had already started my entrepreneurial, journey. I was working multiple jobs, and I was also, doing, like freelancing, construction, stuff like that, and all that stuff, on my own. I didn't have a company, but I was freelancing my services as a laborer. But I was very actively, like, pursuing money and success in the realm of getting experience, business experience and stuff like that. And she told me something that she said she regretted. The number one thing she regretted in life was the fact that she gave up too soon on her musical career. And I asked her, I was like, what do you mean by, like, too soon? Like, she said that she let other people, persuade her that she deserved more security in her life, right? And she told me that, and I kind of thought about that, and still to this day, it's obviously, this is when I was 16, so that's like years back. That's like what, like 18, like 18, 19 years back, right? And I still think about it to this day. And like it makes me feel very very sorry, for her. Oh, 17 years. I don't know. Either way. um, either way, so it makes me feel very sorry for her. But the weird thing about it is, I felt more sorry for myself if I gave up on my ambitions. Now, I'm not going to say I had the easiest road. I've made a ton of mistakes. I mean, I've put myself in so many bad positions. I've lost thousands of dollars, and that I couldn't afford, honestly. In debt to this day, trying to figure out, how is this business thing gonna work, right? And that's where we all are. Let's just be honest. We don't just get into it. Even if you have a silver spoon, you don't just get into business and become successful, right? The only successful ones that do that, right, that have those resources, are the ones that have a team to support them, right? And you can't just get into it on your own and then think that just because you have some resources that it's going to work. It doesn't work that way. Trust me, I found out the hard way. And let's just say, I'm still kicking and screaming about it, but I've learned a valuable lesson, and that lesson was to be able to share with other people through my mistakes. Like, you don't have to learn through all of those. That's why I'm developing the programs that I'm developing. That's why I'm going through this process of, like, putting myself on social platforms like this, to be able to inform you in how can I say, in the most efficient way possible, right? Like, I could sit here and I can write a book, right, all day long, but the reality is nobody wants to read books anymore, right? I can go and I could write a book and then have it recorded in an audio platform, but there's so much time that goes into doing that when I could just sum it up in videos like this, in little snippets. Now, I can't just say, like, they're small videos. Obviously this one is like already going on like 40 something minutes, but later on maybe I can break it down into more bite-sized chunks, and give you guys very, very concise, clear messages as to what you can do with your time, and what pitfalls to avoid. There's so many things, like whether you're starting a corporation or a limited liability, or you're sole proprietor, or whether you have to go to the city to fill out for a business, a business form ID, or you have to get a tax ID, or maybe you need an ISBN number for particular products that you're buying, or whether you need patents in trademark protections, or when to talk to a lawyer, or when to when to start marketing, or when to, in no time's too soon, but when to start marketing, how to brand yourself, like, and discovering resources like this, like Claude Hopkins, or other resources online. It's amazing, the opportunities that we have before us. We just need to really discover our values first, right? Discover your values first. Discover, who you are, and what you want, and the things that interest you, and then come across as genuine about it, right? Like, don't sit here and try to fill in the blanks for yourself and say, hey, I'm going to market, and I'm going to market this and that, right? Like, if you're going to do affiliate marketing, market things that you're interested in, market things that you use, market products and services that you yourself would consume, and therefore, and by extension of, the other people that you attract to you will be quality driven as well. If you're attracting crap services and products that you're just trying to fill in as entertainment value, you're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to attract the wrong demographics. You're going to attract things that you can't relate. They might relate momentarily, but they won't go with you into the future, right? And that's why you have what's the statistics? I forget the statistics, but it's something in the realm of like 90% of new business failures within like the first like year or so. And then you have like the next 3 years, you have like whatever's left of them, like I think it's like 75 or 55% of them fall off as well. And that's why you have that trickle effect. And it's horrible. Like, the success rate for businesses nowadays, it's going to get better, because I can't say for any one business, but it's going to get better for individuals, especially entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, or freelancers, because there's so many different avenues to take your talents into, that you can eventually create a revenue stream that will be coming in from all directions. Although it's going to take a lot of energy, but you'll still have access to it, right? But if you want to build one really strong brand and be consistent with that one brand, you have to understand your values, right? And it all starts by making your own, like, make a resume to yourself. Here's a little takeaway for you. Make a resume that you would address to yourself for the company that you want to build, right? So if you want to build a service company, right? Say you want to build a service company that provides, I don't know, say you want to be virtual, what do you call it, virtual assistant, right? Like, let's just keep it simple, right? No, I shouldn't say simple, that's actually really complex, but let's just keep it in the realm of, knowing. And with that being said, knowing what a virtual assistant's job is, you're essentially helping companies, you're helping businesses, you know get a little traction, you're helping them manage their online, e-stores, or websites, or social platforms, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever the value of your whatever the value of your virtual assistant is to you, let's say that's the job that you want. Let's say you want to start there because it's going to help you better understand, the virtual environment, the Internet of Things, right? And with that, your part of your mission is to do just that. You write a resume, you write it as if you are going to be handing it to any company that you find online or whatever, and then you review it, and then you can even go over it with your friends and family or whatever it is, to be able to kind of give you a better idea of your value, right? And keep it simple. Like, don't go and overindulge in all kinds of, adjectives to explain and describe who you are and why you're so great at what you do and all this and that. Keep it simple. Keep it to the point where it's like, if all you know how to do is market on one platform, then keep your resume about that one platform. Only talk about that one platform and get in depth to that one platform. And then later on, you can add to it, because then you'll learn that there's certain, consistencies in, between different platforms, and providing the same service, on one platform will transition into another platform. And then now you sell it. Now you're selling yourself as a business, right? Because now you're adding features. And the more you learn, the more experience you have, the more features you add onto your products or services, the more you can upsell, upcharge, or whatever it is. You can either have a basic package, or maybe a basic plus package, or then you can have an elite package where you can have a complete, internet marketing strategy, or internet management program, whatever that you can develop. But until then, you have to start small, right? You have to sell what it is that sell your knowledge, sell your experience, and sell sell your values, sell who you are, sell why you want to do what you want to do, and your mission, right? That resume in itself is a business plan in its own right. And then, if you want to add people to your team, or maybe you want to be an affiliate, with another company or whatever, and you have a long-term contract, then you add that as part of your actual, products and services, how can I say that, procedures, like, this particular, client needed this particular work, and then you build a portfolio, and then before you know it, you have your own marketing firm. And that's how it works. It doesn't, you don't just make a business plan for a marketing firm all at once, right? You don't just go and just start filling in, charts, and throwing in everything that you learned in school, and all or whatever it is, just to fill in the blanks. Like, you have to, know that that's what you want. Know that that's where you feel most valuable. Know that that's where your time is going to be best spent, right? And with that, you can better understand, how to navigate the different, how to navigate between the marketing lines, right? And you can cater to specific niches. So, man, was this a mouthful? But there's a lot on this subject, and honestly, I think I overdid it with this video, as far as talking about a lot of topics, but not giving you guys exactly little tidbits to take away, or at least little projects and exercises to do. But in the long run, this is all contributing. Like, you'll be able to reference this video. Look at the times, look at I don't know, maybe I'll create timestamps and all that stuff. But until then, I'm going to keep planning. I'm going to keep progressing. I'm going to keep, trying to find out different ways how to, explain these marketing things. And another thing too is, I'm going to be putting together, exercises and stuff like that, and also programs in in marketing theory, and all that stuff. And in different perspectives and different strategies and techniques and all that stuff, and also like case studies and stuff that have been done. I'm going to put those things together, but I'll most likely put them into my blogs, or maybe I'll integrate different links into these videos where you guys can have access to that information. I'll probably do it through my blogs that I have set up, or even on my website. Which is another thing. I'm trying to gain traction to my website, so please feel free to visit that website. Also, there's plenty of books on there that I try to consume. I couldn't fit everything on there right now. I've just been going slowly but surely adding books to it. But you can actually go to those books, and if there's any books that you like, by all means, purchase the book through the website and help support me. And also, if you're seeing this video, it's probably too late now, but like, share, and subscribe, comment, do everything to help me gain a little traction. That way, I can get a sense of validation and know that at least my words are being valued one way or another, right? Now, and until that's all settled, and I don't think it'll ever be settled. I definitely look forward to future videos and much shorter videos. And you'll see what I'm talking about as far as much shorter videos, as far as marketing, right? 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute, and 10-minute videos. These numbers, they all, I said one thing in reference to words, but numbers are also, something that could be marketed as well. So, and just for a quick little, nugget real quick, the difference between the numbers 7 and 13, right? 7, majority of people consider 7 in a particular, traditional environment, or like in a certain geographical environment, to be a lucky number. 7 for most people seems to be a lucky number, right? Whereas 13 seems to be somewhat of an unlucky number, right? So it's that little play that we do emotionally as marketers to try to attract different demographics, different people, right? Different layers, I guess you can say, of the niches, right? But macro, micro niche, it's all relative. It really is. You just need to know where you want to start and how you want to go about it. Some people start in grassroots. That's niching. That's micro niching. You get to know one person to one person to person is the most valuable form of marketing. And that's another thing that, by all means, go do some research and find out who Claude Hopkins is, and maybe you can give me some info. Perhaps there's a lot I'm missing. He has a book, I believe it's called The Science of Marketing, I think it's called. I could be wrong. I haven't read it. It's kind of hard to get your hands on, but I'm gonna try to find a copy of that. And when I do, I'm gonna let you guys know. I'll probably post it on my site, and then you'll have a link to it to be able to find it. But either way, I gotta sign off now. This video has gone crazy long, and if you made it to the end, oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And if you have made it to the end, just throw a comment down there, and I promise I'll get in contact with you and thank you personally. But until next time, I'm Alex with the Daily E. This is your Entrepreneur's Field Guide. Bye, people. See you later.